And good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody here joining me on the broadcast this morning. I see a few of you have already jumped on in, and it's much appreciated. It is post holiday, post Christmas broadcast here as everything is live and official right now. So, hope everybody's having a good holiday and has been able to safely spend time with family and friends if that's what you do. Hopefully, you've been able to have some good food and not border on overindulging as I did a little bit this last couple days. But I was actually on pretty good behavior eating wise. So I should, to be fair with that, I did actually do a pretty good job there. So, how's everybody doing? Those of you who have been in, everybody doing okay? I trust and expect. I am going to do a few different things today, this morning. But first, I'm going to set the table with what's going to go on today and tomorrow. So today, I'm going to be broadcasting, obviously, right now. And I'm going to also be broadcasting again later this evening. So if you're checking your YouTube subscriptions and hopefully you've subscribed and hit the bell notification, you know that I'll be going on later tonight. And then I'll also be on Sunday night, which I think is going to be one of my regular times that I'm going to go on in terms of broadcasting. So Saturday morning for sure. And then Sunday evening for those of you who are staying up late a little bit or just getting ready to go to bed. And hopefully that'll be a good regular time to be able to jump on here and talk a little bit about books, talk a little bit about books from a standpoint of reading, books from a standpoint of writing. Hopefully that'll continue to be a good time for all of us as we move forward. So before I jump into some writing sprints, and I am going to do our writing sprints, as you know how I do it. The 15-minute writing sprints is typically what I do, and it gives me a chance to get into a nice groove without hopefully losing too many of you guys. But you all seem to be pretty good. My loyal audience that comes in, and much appreciated. But before I jump into that, I'm going to show you some of the reading that I've been doing this month, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. This is a partial idea. Or a partial example of what I've been doing. I'm also finishing up A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. That's actually a Kindle book. So I'm almost done with that. I was listening to a little bit of that last night, and I think I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. It's a pretty large book. It's a little over 400 pages. So I think I was a little over 300 pages in. So I'm getting pretty close to being finished with that particular book. But let me show you the books that I have been reading so far this month. And these are the physical books. So one is Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. This is a kind of a cool book. It's actually, you can see right there, it's a book of the month selection. So it's actually been a pretty fun book to read in the sense that it leads you to believe that you know who the killer is early on. And then the mystery kind of is being solved over the course of the book, and it takes you on some highs and lows on a roller coaster ride. So it was actually an interesting way of kind of telling a mystery story. So I haven't seen too many books that really do it that way. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It was a pretty fast read. So if you like that kind of thing, it's pretty good. So I was glad to jump into that one. Next is The Heritage, Black Athletes, A Divided America, and the Politics of Patriotism by Howard Bryant. I've actually read a few of his books in the past, but this was a good commentary, and actually is really timely, because if you think of the things that are going on in terms of athletes and protesting and movements that have been taking place, especially over the last few years, it was a book that was really timely. I happened to see it pop up on Amazon, and Amazon, they obviously have me in their algorithm, knowing what they think that I'm going to want to read. So they served that one to me quite a bit, and finally I took the bite, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good read. It was a fast read. There were some sections of the book that I focused on a little bit more than others, but nonfiction books I typically read and devour pretty fast. I did do a lot of highlighting, so I had the old yellow highlighter out there, and I was highlighting quite a bit and tabbing a little bit as well. And that's a book that I might actually do an individual review on because of some of the significant things that happened in that book that I thought were really important. Okay, next books that I finished so far is this one is called Black Fatigue, and it's about how racism erodes the mind, body, and spirit. It's written by Mary Frances Winters, best-selling author of Inclusive Conversations and We Can't Talk About That at Work. That might be an interesting one. We can't talk about that at work that I might have to look at. And it really just kind of goes into the toll that racism takes on Black people in the everyday, like microaggressions that can really have a significant impact. And so I thought that was a really interesting book. A booktuber recommended that book, and I'm definitely glad that I found that particular book. Now, the other current book that I'm reading right now is a book that I've been putting off for a long time. A Heart and a Body in the World, and by Deb Coletti. So I've actually jumped into that book. I'm going to leave that one up here, but I'm really enjoying that one. It starts with the hinting of a traumatic incident that's happened, and one of the coping mechanisms that the main character uses is this cross-country running journey that she's going to take. And so I'm guessing I'm only about 50 pages into it. So I'm guessing you're going to find out more about the traumatic incident, the coping mechanisms, and the people involved, and so on as the book continues. So that's kind of a quick rundown of what I'm reading. And I don't know. Let me know what you guys are reading. Those of you who are in the chat right now, just definitely curious about what you guys are reading to just kind of get a feel. I know we all have different interests in what we read. Hang on. So, and hello to everybody that's already been in the chat here. Let me go ahead and get a couple things set up here real quick so we can get going with some of these writing sprints. So my clock going here. And get the clock going here. 15 minutes on the clock. Set. Go full screen. Super full screen. And let's see here. So again, what are you all reading? Let's see what some of y'all are talking about. Now you have nothing to read, so you're on pause until January. Yuki's on pause until January 1st. Yeah, I'm trying to squeeze in these last two books, the Sarah J. Maas book, and then A Heart and a Body in the World is the last two that I want to try to squeeze in. See, we're at December the 26th, so I've got 5 more days to finish these two books. So we'll see there. And I might actually, to be honest with you, now that you made me think about it, I might actually hit the pause button as well until the start of the year and just kind of recalibrate, because I want to think about the books that I'm gonna want to read as I've been doing a little bit of pre-planning for 2021. I was on a group on a video on BookTube, and we were kind of doing some pre-planning. So thanks, Margaret Pinard. She invited me on that, and we did some planning for 2021, and it went pretty well. It was interesting to really think it through and think about the elements, the different types of books that you want to read over the course of the year, and then try to spread them out over the course of the year so you get good representation of the types of books that you want to read: fiction, nonfiction, self-help, memoirs, or different types of fiction, because I want to diversify my fiction. I've talked to you guys about that before. I want to read more fantasy, a little bit more science fiction in my types of books that I want to read. So I'm definitely looking to diversify from that standpoint. You're on that James Bond kick. I picked up a James Bond. What was the James Bond book that I just picked up? It was what was the James Bond? It was a Kindle Unlimited book. I can't remember which one it was I picked up. It'll come to me. It's one of the movies. I can't remember which one it was, but I did pick up one the other day. So Ian Fleming is really, really fun reading Ian Fleming stories. A Vintage Christmas was the last one. I haven't heard of that one. I should have read more holiday books, more Christmas related books. Book of the month had a holiday book that I'm like, I wondered if I should have picked it up, but they had a lot of good selection. I thought they had a lot of good selections in December, so I opted to go in a different direction. But the book that I think they had was Holidays, I think it was called, but I didn't end up picking that one up. Nazy is back in the house with us, still reading Washington Black, also reading Black Movie by. Oh, that might be an interesting one. Yeah, definitely have to let me know how that goes. I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about that one. You got some cool book reads that you typically do, so always good to hear from you. Nicole is here with us. I started Demon Rogue, unsure if I want to finish, not as good as I thought it would be. Which always brings an interesting question about when you start reading a book and it's not what you thought. Is it? So my question to you would be: Is it like not as good as you thought it would be, but I'm going to finish it, or not as good as you thought it would be, and it's going to hit the DNF pile? So that's always a question. I've had a few books like that this year, where I thought it was going to be really good. Like for The Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. Like everybody loved that book and talked a lot about it. I read it. It was good. The writing was really good. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's kind of similar to what Nicole is saying. And so I ended up not finishing it. I did finish it, excuse me. I finished it, but there's some parts of it I kind of skimmed a little bit. But and it was good. Um, there were people that said, you got to get like 150 pages into it before it really gets going. And then I thought, you know what? I actually liked the first probably 150 pages, and then I started to stall a little bit with that particular book. So, but it was well written, very well written, and an interesting topic, to be sure. Let's see. I came to a total of 147 books this year. So I thought it might be time for a pause and maybe try an ebook for the first time to understand the hype. Oh, you've not read ebooks, so you're a physical book reader. I will say it took me a while to get into ebooks. Um, I wasn't really comfortable with them at first. When I first got my first Kindle, I was really excited, and then I found that I was using it more for like internet. I was using it more as a tablet to get online and things like that, and not using it as much for actual reading. But then in about the last year or so, I've started reading more books on there. A lot of it is because you can get a lot of free books and or reduced cost books. You can borrow books, like a library, and so I ended up reading a lot more books that are, shorter novella type books. So, um, I think from that standpoint, it's really good. You can do all the same things. You can highlight with ebooks, and you can bookmark with ebooks. So those kind of features are pretty cool too. You can look stuff up. Yeah, so if you're not sure what they're talking about, you want to look something up, you can do that too. So, and they're kind of cool, but it's not for everybody. I can definitely understand that. Um, oh, yeah, yeah, I've done that before. Like I said with the Ninth House, I didn't skip to the end, but I started skimming parts, and the strange part is that even as I was skimming, I was still picking stuff up, which was kind of interesting. Like I wasn't like sometimes you skim and you miss a lot of stuff, and then you get to a point where you start really focusing and reading, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, and then you have to go back and read something. So, skimming can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad. Let's see. Black Movie is a powerful book of poetry. Only about 40 pages that left me breathless. Wow. Okay. Okay. That's quite the testimonial right there. So hold on. I don't know why this is making me reset the clock for some reason. So bear with me here. I'll get back to the chat here in a second. All right, let's make sure I got that set. I don't know why it makes you do it twice. All right, let me see. Um, I usually try to push through, but there was once a book that I couldn't finish because it was so close to my own experience. Oh, and I meant audiobook, not ebook. Oh, I got you. Yeah, audiobooks are not for everybody. I would say one issue that I have with audiobooks sometimes is I listen to them before I go to sleep, and sometimes you could be listening to it and you're like into it and you're into it and you're into it, and the next thing you know, you've dozed off for like 5 minutes and you've missed a whole bunch, and what was being said just before you dozed off you probably didn't retain. So yeah, audiobooks, yeah, that's if you have like a commute when you drive, then I would say that's probably a good time for audiobooks. If you're up and around the house or something like that and you're maybe cleaning or you're cooking, um, but you're alert and awake, then I would say audiobooks can be really really good. But some of it also depends on the reader, the narrator. If the person has like a boring voice, sometimes it can be really difficult. But if you get a reader that's like got a great voice, it can really help you a lot. So yeah, that can make all the difference in the world. The person who's actually doing the reading. But there's a market for creepy poetry, so it's not always the worst thing in the world. That's one of the things about the vastness of what authors produce, is that everybody's got different viewpoints, and it's just a great opportunity for people to express themselves. So nothing wrong with being a little creepy. It can actually be cute. So yeah, it's all good though. So yeah, great stuff. So yeah, keep reading if you're there, and hopefully everybody is working on their goals, their reading goals for next year, and just kind of getting a thought. As I mentioned before, I'm looking to diversify my reading interests in 2021 to try to make sure that I read different books. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk a little bit more intelligently to the booktube community, and it's interesting looking around and seeing people that read the range of books that I read, because I read a very interesting mix of books. As you just saw, the books that I was telling you about that I'm reading. So again, Black Fatigue, which was one that I just finished, and then The Heritage, about Black athletes and patriotism, and then fiction wise, Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. So everybody's got, I read a incredibly diverse mix of books, from nonfiction to different types of fiction. And so finding other booktubers that read the same things that I read is just kind of difficult to get it all in one spot, to find that department store that just has everything in one spot. So it can definitely be a challenge. Let's see. When I was a child, there were those audio plays in the radio, and later on, you could buy them. Detective series, that was awesome. Hopefully, audiobooks are like. Yeah, they can be. Some of them can be similar to that. Again, it just depends. Some audiobooks are better done than others. I feel like sometimes audiobooks are like, for some people it's like they really think about how the audiobook is going to really work, and they really put a lot into making sure that it works really well. And I think other times I think the audiobook is almost an afterthought for people. So because obviously you have your audiobook, you have your ebook, and you have your hardcover and or paperback. And so I think sometimes the audiobook can become an afterthought. But when you get that good narrator and you get one that's really well designed, it can really make a big difference. Yeah, I mean, part of nonfiction is just, finding what you like to read. I've gone through phases. I went through a phase when I was much younger where I was really into true crime reading, and I read a ton of true crime books. I kind of cut my teeth a little bit reading true crime books. I think the first book I really remember reading was not a true crime book. It was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. But after that, I went through a big run where I was reading a lot of true crime books. So that could be your thing. I went through a phase where I was reading a lot of biographies and memoirs, and I went through phases where I was reading a lot of self-help books, books about leadership, um, books about. I went through the Patrick Lencioni series, not all of them, but I went through a lot of them. I'm still looking at reading the John Gordon series, and Patrick Lencioni and John Gordon, they do fiction and then nonfiction. So they use a fiction story to tell a to set the stage for some nonfiction principles. So that's one of the reasons I like those books. They give you actually the best of both worlds, the fiction and the nonfiction. Let's see. Stayed up late to finish a book. Next thing I knew, it was 4 a.m. Yeah, you get caught up in a good book, and it can be like that. You're reading and you're reading and you're reading, and you're getting to the end, and you just can't put it down. And like you said, the next thing you know, it's 4 in the morning. Let's see. I read Little Brother this year, and it made me cry. I found out there is a Disney movie about it now. Huh? That sounds like a Disney movie. Books with second person point of view. I don't think I've read very many of those. That's an interesting that's an interesting thought. I don't think I've read very many of those. I'm just trying to think of if I can think of one. I would. I'd be interested in it and giving it a try. I don't know. I just can't think of very many. Hmm. That is an interesting concept though for from a reading standpoint. Probably would be from a writing standpoint as well. Let's see. Yeah, I've read Hunger Games. I really enjoyed Hunger Games. I think I've mentioned before with Hunger Games that typically it wasn't the kind of thing that I would read, and I've told the story before. I had the movie on DVR, the first Hunger Games on DVR, but I also had the first three books on my shelf, and they were literally just sitting there collecting dust. I had bought the first one. It was just I was walking through one of those big box stores, and I happened to see Hunger Games on the bookshelf, and I'm like, I'll go ahead and pick it up. It was cheap, so I picked it up, and then I had it, and then I was on Amazon probably, and then I saw the second two. The second and third books, and so I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll pick those up too. And so they sat on my shelf for a while, and then I got the movie on my DVR. The movie just grabbed me for some reason, and I wanted to watch it, but I said no. I want to read the books first before I watch it. So I did end up reading the books, and I enjoyed them. I really enjoyed Hunger Games. I liked Catching Fire. Um, I endured Mockingjay, and I endured the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The Divergent series, I need to get Divergent. I think the one that I have is Insurgent, which I think is the second book. So I need to get the first book to give that one a try. But I'm told that it's very similar to Hunger Games, or somewhat similar to Hunger Games. You would probably know better than I would about that. Historical biographies sometimes give me the creeps. Yeah, it depends. It depends on who the figure is. Um, you know, if it's like a political figure, maybe it's maybe not quite as creepy, but there are some figures. Well, that's one of the things. Like when I used to read true crime, I used to read a lot of true crime. Those were creepy. You read some of those at night, and you're just kind of like every little creak in the house. You're just kind of looking up, and it's almost spooky. So, yeah. So you might want to be careful about true crime. Let's see. See if there's anything else that I missed here before I started doing some writing sprinting. So we talked about what you guys are reading. You guys still working on your writing projects? Um, Okay, so you read it. Okay, Ingrid. Um, he found it manipulative and enjoyed every minute. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I hadn't thought about it like that. That is an interesting way of looking at it. That is a very interesting way of looking at it. I enjoyed it. It was stunningly engrossing. The especially the first book. Um, I was questioning, like, when I buy a book that is really hyped up and it ends up sitting on my shelf for months or maybe years, and then all of a sudden I read it. There's usually something that's stopping me, and then I jumped into it like you, and I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I was stunningly impressed with it. That's one of the reasons why I came up with this series that I want to do in 2021. And I mentioned that it has a Hunger Games element to it, but it also has an element of the Manchurian Candidate. So it's going to be really interesting, but it requires, and I've mentioned it I think last week, that it's going to take some world building lessons for me to learn to really make sure that I got it down cold first, and then I got to figure out how I want to start it. And so there's a lot that goes into it. For me, once I think we had this discussion last week. Once I get started, if I get that first like couple of paragraphs down, I usually can almost hit the cruise control button, especially if I've done a good job of outlining. So let's see. Yeah, I read the biography of a woman that was held captive for being. Yeah, yeah. I've seen movies like that before, but that would be interesting, and I think it would be kind of creepy to read a book on that topic. But I've seen movies and documentaries about stories like that, experiences like that. I shouldn't say experiences more than stories. So yeah, I could see that being really really creepy. It's like even watching certain episodes of Criminal Minds, that television show. You see stories similar to that. Where the FBI comes in, the criminal minds FBI team comes in, and they're able to solve it. So no, I feel you where you're coming from there. A few poetry collections, Hunted book two, and thinking of finishing another book I started writing. Okay, let's see. I like Catching Fire more than Hunger Games. I can see that. I can definitely see that. Catching Fire was good. Um, I assume you're talking more about the book than the movie. Am I correct in saying that? Catching Fire, the book. I mean, I guess I would probably rank them the same. The books and the movies, and I'd probably rank them in the same order. But Catching Fire was very good. I did like it a lot. I did. I like the Hunger Games a little bit better just because it was the original story. But the Catching Fire was good. It was very good. It was a very good sequel. Suzanne Collins was on fire when she was, no pun intended, when she when she did Catching Fire. Wow, I didn't even intend that pun and it came out. So sometimes you get lucky. Let's see what else we got here. Delegated the book from Kindle and picked a new one and read 9 chapters and not engaged. Okay. That reminds me, I should look for Divergent on Kindle. I should look and see if I can find that. So, all right. Okay. I'm going to get ready to do a writing sprint here. We're at about 16 past the hour. So let me get things set up. All right. So we're going to go to the bottom of the hour. Let's see. Yep, didn't like the films as much. I thought the first Hunger Games film was. I thought the books were better. First of all, let me just straight up say that I thought the books were better. I didn't care for the Mockingjay movies. I didn't care for the movies, the Mockingjay movies. The Hunger Games movie and Catching Fire movie I did like. Um, so let's see. So I'm with you there. I do sometimes write short stories, but I think some of it depends on, I guess, the technical definition of a short story. Um, like I'm also editing a novel that I wrote, a very short novel, a novella that I wrote. It's about 40,000 words, and I'm debating whether I want to leave it as is. It's a fast paced, good story. It's fun. I shouldn't say it's fun. It's actually a thriller with some bad things that happen, but it's really fast paced, and I actually really love the pace of it, and I don't really want to bog it down by just throwing an unnecessary amount of backstory in there just to bulk it up to like 60,000 words. So give me your advice on that. Should I leave it as it is? I think it's 38 or 39,000 words, something like that. But I love the pace of it. It's just fast paced, and I'm reading it again right now while I'm doing an edit, and I like it. I kind of don't want to mess with it. You know, it's kind of like when you're when you're painting and you were in an art class and you're doing something really cool, and then the art teacher comes by, and the art teacher thinks that you got something really good, and you're getting ready to screw it up by going too much on it, and then the art teacher, he or she just takes it away. It's like, yeah, I think you're done. So I've seen that happen before. Let's see, the films for Divergent were worse. I'll keep that in mind. But that's always why, whenever there's a book and a movie, I always want to read the book first, if at all possible. Sometimes it's not possible; things just happen. But I usually like to read the book first. Okay, good discussion. Good discussion. All right, let me. Where did I just put that at? All right, here we go. Let me just go ahead and throw that up on here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the clock up here. Hang on. Simon Finn, welcome to the group. Getting ready to jump into this first writing sprint. If you guys are not writing, you can certainly feel free to do some reading, and then let us know about what you're reading during this sprint. I am working on the writing project that I'm working on right now. Is I think I talked to you guys at some point in the last week or 2 weeks that I was thinking about a fan fiction story that I wanted to do, and I'm still thinking about it. But the more I thought about that one, I thought, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make it my own story. And so I took that concept that was going to be fan fiction, and I just made it kind of my own thing and decided to just kind of run with it there. I may still end up doing the fan fiction thing, but I'm going to, for now at least, I'm going to continue working on this project. So um, we'll see how that goes. Oh, let me jump back to this for a second. Leave it. Adding fluff to it, make it longer, and isn't always needed. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm leaning toward that. There is an element of backstory that I think I can add, but as far as trying to push it to like 60,000 words, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. But some of the backstory that I'm going to add, I think, is going to be valuable to the story, and I don't think it'll slow the pace down too much. So I think I am going to do that part. Okay. So you guys can continue to chat if you want to. Have added in the chat, um, and get going. I'm doing well, Simon. I'm just glad to be back on here, and hope everybody again had a good holiday weekend or week, I should say, and hopefully it continues into the holiday weekend. And then that's going well for everybody. So let me see. Let's see. Work on world building for a new story, very similar to Dragon Age. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I think I told you guys before. I saw Brandon Sanderson. He does he did like some lectures with students. I think it was students about world building, and so I'm really interested in looking at that. So that might be one of my projects for this weekend, so I can jump into that series at some point, because I definitely want to do something different. So I'm excited about that. Simon is, yeah, I'm finally diving back into writing. So glad to catch your stream. Well, I'm so glad that you caught it as well. I'm just really excited to have everybody in here. So looking forward to hopefully us sharing some writing tips or writing points of encouragement for each other. All right. So let me get this going here. First 15-minute writing sprint. My other computer went to sleep on me, so I'm gonna have to wake that up. So here we go. Okay, so first sprint is in the books. Let me tally up here real quick to see. I don't think I had, to be honest with you, I don't think I had a whole lot of words here, but I could be wrong. Let's see. So I ended up getting in 330 words on that sprint. Um, I did get hung up a little bit at the very beginning of the sprint because I was doing a little bit more editing because I kind of put this project aside for a little bit yesterday, and so I had to refamiliarize myself with where I was in the project and then kind of get myself back on balance before jumping into it and doing a little bit more writing. So I did that, and then I got back into the flow of it. This is a project that I probably will end up doing a little bit more outlining today. I think there's some gaps in the outline that I need to work on, so I'll probably end up solidifying that at some point to make sure everything is on point there from a outlining standpoint. So anyway, so I'll be probably working on that a little bit today. So I threw the question up there in the chat about whether in the season of giving with Christmas and the holidays, if anybody had gotten or given any books to friends, loved ones, enemies that that they wanted to discuss. So I actually didn't. I was kind of barricaded in for this holiday. I think as something that probably a lot of people can say here in the season of COVID. So I ended up spending the holidays here, um, which is cool. You know, it has its advantages, of course. So um, like I said earlier, I hope everybody had a good holiday, and I hope everybody's being able to enjoy. If you got a little time off, then hopefully you've been able to enjoy that. I have a little bit of time off. I still have next week off as well, so it's going to be a great time for me to do to finish up some reading projects, to get ready for my to plan out some of my reading for the year 2021. So I definitely want to be a little bit more strategic, as I mentioned earlier about that. So I'm going to work on trying to outline some of the books that I want to read to make sure that I get that good diverse representation of books that I want to read, diverse representation, especially in terms of fiction. And exploring some other genres that I don't read quite as much. So hopefully you guys are doing that too. I don't know how much the rest of you out here plan in advance in terms of the types of books that you're going to be reading over the course of the year. So the funny thing about it for me is that I do my TBR for the month, and then once I get into the month, something else always catches my attention, and then I end up going in a different direction from what my TBR is. So I'm expecting that that'll happen quite a bit and continue to happen quite a bit. You get in the mood of reading a certain type of book, and you find that a book that you read was better than you thought it was going to be. And then maybe you want to read a sequel, or you want to read another book by that author, or you want to read another book in that genre because you're just on a roll, and it just feels like really comfortable. And so that tends to happen to me quite a bit with my TBRs. But the book TBRs are still fun to do. I have a lot of fun with them, but they can certainly change at some point during the course of the month. So, you know, what you're thinking is going to be appropriate before the month of January in 2021 could be very different than where you find yourself come like, you know, what, January 15th or something halfway through the month. So you have to be flexible with your TBR to be read. So hopefully, again, everybody's working on what they want to read in the calendar year 2021. So cool. A Disney Parks cookbook. Very nice. Um, I actually do like to cook. Um, Sometimes I have mixed success because I'm usually pretty stubborn, and sometimes if you don't have the ingredients, all the ingredients, and you haven't really planned it out beforehand, and sometimes you have to go in a different direction. And sometimes people, myself included, can be a little bit stubborn in terms of following the instructions. So, but cookbooks are good if for nothing else for inspiration to try some different dishes. So, um, I have a service that one of these services that delivers the meal, and you just have to cook it and follow their instructions. And so I've been trying that, and it's at a reduced rate right now. So we'll see if I keep up with it after the introductory offer is done, is in the books. We'll see if I continue to feel as good about the service that I'm using right now. So, but it is fun to be able to cook. So I'm with you on that one. All right, let's go ahead and get another 15-minute. We're going to go with another 15-minute writing sprint here. That'll take us to just about the top of the hour here. So it'll be noon hour here on the East Coast. I shouldn't say East Coast. I'm actually in the Midwest, but in the Eastern time zone. So we'll go ahead and get that going here pretty soon. All right, let me reset the clock. Clock looks good. So let me bring it back in. And 15 minutes on the clock. So everybody take your mark, set, go. Okay, so that writing sprint is in the books. I got in 179 words on that particular sprint. So I don't know if those of you who are riding along, what did you guys get in for that particular sprint? Let's see. Let's see. All right. Hold on. Let's see. Um, I gave my family a list of books I want to look into next year, but they got me. No, no. But the things they thought I might like. So now I have my old books in fancier cover. Oh my gosh. I know. I still have no clue what to read next. Yeah. It's interesting. I've got stacks of books, and I just sometimes I just try to resist having an attention span issue, and sometimes it's like, or I should say, actually, let me rephrase that. Sometimes I want to resist having the grass is greener on the other side, and so I have a lot of good books here that I just haven't read yet, and so I always find myself on Amazon or wherever else looking for the next cool book, and when in fact I actually have a lot of good books here that I just haven't gotten around to reading. So yeah, so I'm going to try to read some of the books that I have around here and try to figure out what I want to do next from that standpoint. Simon says, I'm trying to read some classics this year, starting with Virginia Woolf. Okay. I said, what did I say? I was going to read some Shakespeare this year because I haven't really read a lot of Shakespeare historically. So I did want to look at that. Let me see. I'm trying to think if there's any other classics that I want to read. There's a few John Steinbeck books that I want to still read that I'm looking into. So I want to look at some of those. But I'm always in the market for some classic books that would be cool to read. Sherlock Holmes books are good to read. That's a good thought. I hadn't thought of. Wow, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I do like to read that kind of a book. I'd never thought about that. Good call. Divided by Sight. Appreciate that. That's a really good call. I'll probably look up some of those books when I get off of here. And one of you said earlier, mentioned the Ian Fleming James Bond books, which are always fun for me to read. I'm a big James. I grew up a big James Bond guy. My dad was a big James Bond guy growing up, so I definitely have an affinity for reading some of those books, especially some of his shorter stories that ended up becoming hit movies. So I'm definitely looking at potentially reading some more Ian Fleming books as well. I haven't read Edgar Allan Poe in a long time. In fact, probably since either high school or maybe early in college. It's been a long time since I read Edgar Allan Poe. I'm thinking probably high school. So I'd have to refamiliarize myself with Edgar Allan Poe. But that's another interesting thought in terms of classic books to read. So that's one I will definitely be keeping in mind. So, any other classic authors or books out there that people want to throw in there? And one I wanted to read. Um, I still want to read Lord of the Flies. I haven't read that one yet, and I do want to. I do want to read that one at some point. Great idea. I used to have. So I think that was talking about Sherlock Holmes, which I agree that is a really good idea. And I'm actually probably gonna when I get off here, I'm probably gonna look up some Sherlock Holmes stories. Yeah, Brothers Grimm. I used to read. I used to read Brothers Grimm. I think my parents got me a big Brothers Grimm book when I was a kid. Charles Dickens. That's a good call too. I haven't read Charles Dickens in quite some time, so that's another good suggestion. Man, you guys are on it today. Wow, you guys are definitely on it. These are some good calls. Some good calls. I'll tell you, I did read Agatha Christie this year. I did read a little bit more Agatha Christie books this year, and I may continue to read some. Agatha Christie has almost an unlimited amount of books to read. I mean, I could probably read Agatha Christie for forever. So I'll probably look at reading some more of those as well. Let's see what else you guys got going here. Alex Rider is a series like Jane. Oh, okay. That's good to hear. I did not know that. I've not heard of Alex Rider, so that's a good one to hear. Let's see. Most modern spy stories are inspired by James Bond by Ian Fleming. Yeah, I would agree with that's. I mean, that's. Hey, I mean, as far as templates go, you can't get much better than Ian Fleming. So, um, I think you're right on point there. I plan to read some of the books that have been on Goodreads TBR for the it's interesting. My Goodreads TBR, I was looking at that probably a couple weeks ago, and it was just insane how many books I have on my Goodreads TBR. So, um, man, I could read a book a week for a year and probably still struggle to catch up with that. Let's see. There's a book with all the Sherlock stories in it. Okay, so kind of an anthology type book. Let's see if I can find that one. I've got I think an Agatha Christie book that's like that. It doesn't have all of her books, of course, because it would be like it'd be as tall as my house, but it has some of her books in it. We read Lord of the Flies in high school. Yeah, one of the classes. I don't think I was in that section, but there was a class that did read Lord of the Flies. I did not read that one. I would imagine that it did cause some pretty interesting debates reading Lord of the Flies. Um, that's the book that I talked about on the channel, Fantastic Land, has an element of Lord of the Flies in it. I'm told. I haven't read Lord of the Flies, of course, but Fantastic Land by Mike Bachhoven was pretty interesting, pretty creepy for sure. But it was apparently inspired, at least in part, by Lord of the Flies. Let's see. Nicole Hord's books. She has some good suggestions. Okay. Let's see. Anything else in here? Let's see. Kathy Forthy. Okay. Yeah, definitely interested in some. Yeah, I like. We were talking about the Ian Fleming books and the kind of the spy books, which I find just really interesting. And in mysteries, I like good mysteries, especially mysteries where you can follow along. They're sprinkling the clues, a la, Murder She Wrote, where they're sprinkling the clues and you got to try to find the clues and they're actually there. It's just up to you to be able to catch them over the course. So if you guys know of good mystery authors who do that and where you have at least a puncher's chance of being able to solve it if you pay attention to the clues. I'm definitely always interested in those kinds of stories. I think that's part of the reason I was always interested in true crime books, or at least, many years ago when I first started reading, I was really interested in true crime books because sometimes you see the clues along the way, or they tell you what the clues are, and then you have to kind of put the puzzle together along with the investigators. Let's see. I can find it on my bookshelf and send it. Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. Yeah, to share that. So, yeah, you guys have really good suggestions. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the Sherlock Holmes one. That's a good one. I can't believe I never thought about that. Because everybody uses the sad thing is that people use Sherlock Holmes as like a way of clowning somebody for being clever. So that's a shame that Sherlock Holmes is kind of been reduced to that in some ways. But I'm actually looking forward to checking out some of these suggestions that you guys have made. So with that, I'm going to get ready to close it out here for this morning session. We are at coming up on about, let's say about 85 minutes, coming up on about 85 minutes. So really good show. Appreciate you guys joining me and chopping it up here in the chat. I will be back on tonight, as I mentioned earlier, at 9 p.m. tonight. And then I will be back on Sunday night as well. So join me for one of those 2 evening broadcasts. I'm going to take Sunday morning off. I actually this morning I put the show. I pushed it back 15 minutes, I think, because I slept in a little bit and enjoyed it. I'm not really one that can sleep in very well, so I did end up sleeping in before I got up, showered, made some breakfast, and then pretty much just jumped right here on the broadcast to be able to join with you guys, since this is becoming kind of our regular time for many of us. And again, I thank you guys for that, for joining me here and just making it fun. For me, this is just about fun. This is just getting on here and just chatting with people, whether it's 2 people, 3 people, 9 people, 900 people. It's just fun to get on here and be able to chat with you guys and to hopefully bring you guys a little bit of entertainment and just create a platform for you guys to entertain yourselves, as it were, to be able to have a little bit of fun here on the weekends. I am going to be off next week of work, so I may jump on here a few more times next week during the week to, see when people are available, to just kind of have some fun with it. That's part of the joys of being able to do these things while I am off for most of next week. So there are a couple things that I do need to do next week that I think are going to be fun. Fingers crossed. So many of you may not know this, but I do broadcast college sports on the radio. So hopefully going to have a chance to do that next week. So that should be a lot of fun. So, all right, I need to get going because I need to jump into some college football today, and I need to get my fix of that. Yeah, again, so 9 p.m. tonight, I will be back on, and then Sunday night at 9 p.m. I will be back on again. I think it is at 9 p.m. Hold on, let me check and make sure I got it scheduled. I got it scheduled here. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be a little after 9 p.m. So if you guys are here at 9 p.m., you guys will be pretty close to being on time. So thank you everybody for coming in, and look forward to seeing you guys tonight and then hopefully again tomorrow night. So please, if you haven't hit the like button and you'd be so kind as to do that, I would really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll have time to work on my outline, because I need to, in the project that I'm working on right here, I realize that I need to strengthen my outline a little bit. So I'll probably be working on that between the end of this broadcast and the start of the next one. And if not, I'll be working on maybe some outlining tonight as well. So in the meantime, I'm probably going to do some investigation of world building strategies and fundamentals to get sharpened up for that, so I can work on that series in 2021. So thank you guys for coming out, and I'll see you guys hopefully tonight.